Welcome. This lesson is over percent. So we're going to talk about parts, whole, and percent using the percent proportion. So you are going to be given 4 problems, and I would like you to solve it. So let's look at number 1. There are 40 students. 30% of these students are wearing a red shirt. So 30%. So it must be this percent right here. Because this is a 100%, so 30% of this are wearing a red shirt. How many students are wearing a red shirt? So, in a percent proportion, there's 30% shaded out of 100%. Are the 50 students, do they represent 30% of the students or all of them? Well, I said there are 50 students. That's all of them. How many students are wearing red? So that means I would like to figure out how many students are wearing red that represent 30%. Let's find the relationship. What is the relationship between 100 to 50? Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Another way to say that is times it by the reciprocal of 1/2. 30 divided by 2 is 15 students. To check your work, 15 out of 50 students wore red times 2 times 2, which is 30%. Paul only has enough money to pay 62% of his monthly rent. His monthly rent is $500. How much money does he have? So I need to shade in 62%. Let's make a prediction. Is 62% more than half or less than half? It should be more than half. So more than half of $250. So the answer will be more than half. So $500 represents his whole monthly rent, which is 100%. So if he only has enough money for 62%, how much money does he have? The relationship is times 5. The scale factor is times 5. So 62 times 5 is $310. That's all the money he has out of $500 to pay rent. Number 3, 48% of the dogs have fleas. So let's shade in 48%. Is that more than half or less than half? That is a little less than half. So 48% have fleas. Out of how many percent? 100%. There are 150 dogs. How many dogs have flea? Do the $150 represent 48% or all of the dogs? All of the dogs, 100%. So can 100 go into 150? It cannot. Well, it can. I mean, you could say times 1.5, but I don't want to work with decimals. I want to make it easier myself. Let's simplify this to 24 and 50. I divide both numbers by 2. Now, what's the relationship between 50 to 150? Times 3. Times 3. 24 times 3 is 72. And let's check our work. Half of 150 is 75. If it's 48%, it's just a little less than half, or 72 students. Number 4, Arnold is at Lupe Tortillas. His total bill was $35. That's all the money. That's the whole thing, 100%. He plans to leave 20% tip for the waiter. What dollar amount did he leave behind? Many ways you can solve it. You can solve it like this way within. Can 100 go into 20? Divide by 5. Divide by 5, so $7. Another way you could have done it is this way. Simplify this. Divide both numbers by 20, so 1 and 5. What's the relationship between 5 to 35? Times 7. So that's why we got 7. So here's a video. Let me raise up the volume. And let's press start. So in this video, Yu Sung forgot his 30% discount coupon. Hey, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. So he's a little cheap, as you can tell. The funny thing is when he returns back, the blind date left, and she ordered every single dish you could order. And so even with the 30% discount, would have spent more money. So if the bill was $40, that's the entire bill, which is 100%. Oh, he forgot his 30% coupon, which is less than half. How much money could he have saved? So we label the parts. What's the relationship between 100 to 40? 130, I don't know. Ooh. Well, let's simplify this. I can divide both numbers by 10, so it's 310. Now, what's the relationship from 10 to 40? The scale factor is times 4. So $12 out of 40. To check your work, you could divide 12 divided by 40. It's 0.30, which is 30%. So, oh, it's right here. So what you're going to be doing today is you're going to be given cubes. You're going to be answering these questions. So it says 3 out of 5 cubes are orange. So we have 3 cubes, and so is 2. What percent are orange? Well, many ways to solve this. We know there's 3 orange out of how many cubes? Out of how many cubes? 5. And 5 cubed represents 100%. So the relationship is times 20, so 60%. Is this more than half? It is. There are 2 purple cubes. 1, 2. This represents 40% of the cube, so it's a little less than half. How many cubes did you start with? Let's see. It can't be this one because that's half of it. Let's try this one. Would this work? Would it? So we have 2 purple out of 5, 100%. Relationship is times 20. That's 40%. It is. It did work. However, would you like to know a shortcut? Well, here is the shortcut. So we knew there's 2 purple cubes. It represents 40%, a little less than half. And there's 2 purple. Do we know how many cubes we started with, the whole part? Well, we can find out. Divide both, turn a 40% to 2, you divide both numbers by 20. 100% divided by 20 is 5. That's how I could have done it without guessing and checking and plugging. 4 out of 20 cubes are purple. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they said there's 20 cubes. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So 4 out of 20 are purple as 100%. Times 5 times 5, that's 20% are purple, a little less than half. There are 5 yellow cubes. One, oh goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This represents 25% of the cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 50%. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a third. We need 25%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 1/4 of it. I think this is going to be the answer. So there are 20 cubes. But you know what? What if I would like to do a shortcut? 25% is 1/4 out of 100%. And there's 5 yellow cubes. What's the relationship between 25 to 5 divided by 5 divided by 5? So it's 20 cubes. It's the whole what I started with. 3 out of 8 cubes are yellow. 1, 2, 3. So out of 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 3. That's 8. Is that a little less than half? It is a little less than half. So that means our answer has to be less than 50%. So 3 out of 8 are yellow out of 100%. How many 8s go in 100? Well, let's find out. goes in 1 time, 2 times, bring it down, 5 times. So 12 times 12.5. 3 groups of 12.5 is 37.5%, which is less than half. And the last one, there are 12 orange. This represents 60%, which is more than half of it. So 12 is more than half. How many cubes do we start with? Can 60 go into 12? The relationship is divide by 5 or 1/5. 100 divided by 5 is 20 is the answer. So what we did is we used percent proportion to solve it. Part whole equal percent over 100. If you leave an 8, so I went to a restaurant and I spent $32. That's the total bill. I leave an $8 tip, which is part of what I left behind. What percent did I leave behind? What's the relationship between 32 to 8? Divide by 4. Divide by 4. 100 divided by 4 is 25%. So I left 1/4. I am a very generous person, as you can tell. Every month, I get a haircut. It only costs me $5 to get a haircut. I leave a $1 tip. How generous am I? What percent did he leave the hairstylist? To turn a 5 to a 1, I divide by 5, or times it by 1/5. 100 divided by 5 is 20%. I am a generous person. The standard tipping is about 20%. All right, maybe I really don't leave that, but I do kind of. What if I leave $2? Ooh. What if I left $2? To turn 100 to a 5, or 5 to 100 times 20, times 20. So I would have left a 40% tip. Yay, I'm tipping people big. I'm a baller. All right, 40% of the class is wearing a jacket. That's not everybody. That's not even half of the class. It's only 40%, which is less than half. There are 25 students in the class. Is that everybody in the class? Yes, it's 100%. How many are wearing a jacket? So we could do it this way. No, we have to do it this way. You turn 100 to 25, you divide by 4 or times it by 1/4. So it's 10 students out of 25. To build it back up, 25 times 4 is 100%. 10 times 4 is 40%. And this is last two. Alicia saved 60% of the cost of a new cell phone. That is more than half. That's good for her. More than half of her bill is she saved discount. So she saved $105. Is that all what is the full price of the cell phone? Do we know the whole price? No. But we know what 105, that's 60%. Any relationship between up here or there? I think we're going to have to simplify this to 610. Then I think I need to simplify this again to 3 and 5. Can 3 even go into 105? It actually surprisingly does. 105 divided by 3 is 3. It's times 35. Times 35. 5 times 35 is $165 is the original price of the cell phone. And our last question. 15 students on our debate team stay after school to practice. If 33% of the debate team stayed home after school to practice, how many students are in all? We do not know the whole class, but we do know 33 and 1/3%. That's a third of it. There's 15 students who stayed home, or 33 and 1/3. If this is 15, another 15, that would be 30 students, or 66 and 2/3%. And then 45 students represents the entire bunch. You multiply by 3. Okay, that is using percent proportion.